Burma, halfway through the 19th of July, the weather's still good. And one big issue. The assault on Midakima succeeded, and the Japanese have retaken it. That Chinese unit up there is unlikely to make any kind of headway against them. Basically, they went at inferior odds, but got surprised, got a 6-column shift, and boom, they're in. Chances were they were going to take it. It was just they managed without any losses, which is awesome. And they have this other stack coming into play. So maybe an Allied loss here. Be neat. 22nd of July in Burma. Allies pulled back largely and started airlifting British units into the Midakina region. That doesn't look very hopeful, but what does look hopeful, surprisingly of all things, is the Brits managed to pull all their supply forward and make an attack. Actually, 2 attacks because they got an exploit. And they've got the Japanese between them and Mandalay in a state of rout. Turns out you can beat a division anyhow, even if you're at the limit of your supply line. Whether or not they can make it to Mandalay in time, hard call, but if they can, wow, this becomes a totally different ballgame. Halfway through the July 22nd turn, and the rain started again. They didn't do anything to the air power. Looked at the rolls. Mandalay is impossible. You have to have trace supply to it for you to win that way. I mean, that was just kind of a... it wasn't... I didn't look it up because it wasn't that important. It was just a thought. But what the British did manage to do on low supplies is interdict the railway again. So none of the rail supplies are going to be chugging up anymore. But the Japanese have plenty up here, and all they have to do is hold the line. So it may be about over at this point. I've been shipping British troops in and trying to bring them across the mountain. Historically, the Marauders did this, but there's a gathering of too much, and it is going to be in trace supply back from this headquarters running back to Bamo. So it's really unlikely they're going to dislodge the Japanese no matter what. I think this is going to end up a Japanese victory, even though there's a huge pile of rail interdiction markers. It looks, it's going to be a close one. 29th of July, pretty much things have ended. The heavy rains have started. Unless that clears up, and that's interdicting the Allied air power. Unless that can clear up, nobody's moving anywhere. The Japanese defenses are down in the way of Mandalay. That's enough to prevent anything, and there's not enough to take back the railway, but lack of supply could do that, forcing the Brits out. Right now their trace supply stops here. They were able to get these guys in supply due to some pack mules, but they've really got to pull back. Over here, their investigation of the mountains, they're just not going to have a chance. There's not enough time, and nobody's moving anything here, it looks like. The Japanese aren't even firing ammo anymore because their rail line's cut, so they can't. But yeah, it's pretty much frozen at this point. We'll just finish it up. Beginning of August 1st, nothing changed except the British pulled back a little bit. The rain had gone up to a quagmire level, or actually to a flood level. But, well, the ground conditions. But the rain went down from heavy rain to a light rain, which meant we went from flood down to quagmire. There's some possibility something might still happen because of that. So I'll keep going. 5th of August, and the weather's clear. The Brits have pulled back completely, back in trace supply. Over here, we see those British units going over the mountains, and now we're down to just normal mud. There were no air restrictions last turn. So although the Japanese were prepared to make an attack because now their rail line is open, they were stopped by Allied air power. I'm calling it here. Technically, the game ended on August 1st anyhow. That's the actual end date for the game. And my guess is maybe the weather chart is unfair for August. It may be supposed to be worse because this is just, it seems like it's going to continue for a while waiting on that monsoon to happen, and it seems very unlikely. So I'll count up the points and give you a wrap in a little bit, but yeah, this is our ending position. Kima is Japanese. I gotta count the other points, that's all. So counting everything, it was about a 25-point Japanese victory. Imphal Indao, which they're almost impossible to lose where it is 5 points for them. Over here, Mogam, I don't know what it is. It's worth 5 points as well. 20 points for this. None of it made up. There was about a 13-point swing in terms of the road hex change. No, not even that much because I counted in the Japanese. So anyway, that's a pretty massive Japanese victory. And I think they deserved it, actually. I think the biggie might have been that failure to defend the road properly with the Brits early on, which cost them some serious effort and didn't allow them to make the offensive quickly enough. All right, I'll be back to discuss the game as a whole because this definitely deserves a review, etc.